Anyone who is half awake can see what is happening. The middle income, lower income Americans are literally being squeezed out of the economy on a regular basis. And with the rising costs of rents, the rising mortgage prices, mortgage rates, food shortages, labor shortages. In fact, when we speak about labor shortages, it's really not a labor shortage. We're actually having lunch right now. We were actually having a recent conversation with a waiter, and the waiter indicated that they don't have enough people. They're not staffed properly to support the amount of business that the company has. Now, why is that? Well, it's not so much that there's a labor shortage. It's more or less that the labor market has shifted. And due to the rising inflation, the cost of goods and services, restaurant owners, for example, are among many different small businesses that are having a difficult time recruiting the workforce that is needed to support the amount of demand that is coming into the restaurants and into these small businesses. So, for example, the waitress indicated that, number one, she is not even getting enough hours. She's not able to essentially make ends meet. And so she's had to create side hustles for herself. She's doing rideshare, she's doing Uber, she's doing she also does the Walmart Spark on the side. So she's doing all of these different side hustles just to make ends meet. Now, I'm not really sure how much the cost of living is in you guys' area, but maybe you guys can comment down below. In the area that I'm in, according to her, she said that it requires at least $2,500 in take-home income to just be comfortable here. And that's not really living any kind of a luxurious life. So you guys comment down below, what is the cost of living in your particular area? And a lot of people, for example, I know a lot of different YouTubers such as Graham Stephan, and I'm not sure if you follow Graham Stephan or other personal finance YouTube channels, but he is actually one of many people who have decided to move out of California. And it is because of the higher taxes. It is because the ever increasing homeless problems that they're facing in California right now. And it is almost as if they don't even care. It's like the lawmakers in California don't even care about this epidemic of homelessness that is ever increasing, to the point where there's just homelessness everywhere. You can't walk down the street without seeing a homeless tent in the roads. Rent is unbelievably high. Landlords are trying to get by because their property taxes are going higher and higher. And as we experience natural disasters such as earthquakes, tornadoes, drought, hurricanes, and so forth, more and more claims are needing to be submitted to the insurance companies to fix what natural disasters have done to some of these pieces of real estate. So, let's just say a tornado comes through, a hurricane comes through. These are high winds and it's tearing up the roofs, right? So landlords and real estate investors who have renters who are also barely able to get by. Thank you very much. Sorry, our food has just arrived. Thank you so much. So I have our food being delivered by two different people, and I'm not sure if this is normal. So the waiter that took our order, she's not the one that's delivering the food. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Now, let me just show you what we ordered really quickly. So as I was saying, I'm not really sure if it was normal to have one waiter to take your order and then have two different people bring your food to the table, but that's what we just experienced. I'm not sure if this is having anything to do with the labor shortage, or maybe just, they needed multiple food runners for whatever reason, but it was a single plate brought out by one person. Normally, one person will bring out multiple plates, but maybe they're just doing something different here. But anyway, going back to what we were saying here, the real estate market is steadily increasing. The Fed is raising interest rates. They're attempting to combat inflation through rising interest rates or raising the interest rates. And all it's doing is it is making it harder for the American people to afford homes. And many Americans are stuck renting, and they're not able to build their wealth. They're not able to attempt to put a cap on their living expenses as a result of being able to lock in their monthly overhead through being able to get a fixed rate mortgage. So every year that your rent is up for renewal, you're being hit with some form of an increase. And the middle class, the lower income Americans they're literally being squeezed out of the market. And going back to the insurance case, you've got insurance rates that are constantly going higher and higher. So whether you're a homeowner or you're a real estate investor, your property insurance is likely gone up already, and it will continue to go up as more and more natural disasters like tornadoes and drought and hurricanes create and do damage to your properties. These insurance companies are having to write checks to make these repairs, and as the insurance companies are basically increasing their expenses, their profit margins are essentially dwindling, they are attempting to restore their profit margins by increasing their revenues, by increasing the premiums that they're charging the homeowners and the real estate investors. And so what happens there is, of course, the monthly rent that the landlord has to charge the renter has to go up. So we're going to continuously see this cycle of ever increasing expenses, ever increasing the ever-increasing gap between the middle class, it's the lower income, the middle class, and everyone else, right? This gap, this wealth gap will continue to get wider and wider and wider unless something drastically different changes. Now, the scary part is that wealth here in America, the incomes here in America is not increasing anywhere near at the rate that our expenses are. And what we're going to see here, and we, hopefully we don't see this. Hopefully hopefully we don't face additional shortages. Hopefully we don't face additional inflation. Hopefully we don't continue to see Americans being forced out of their homes through not being able to afford to live there and ultimately ended up homeless. But what we're seeing here in America is we're more than likely going to find ourselves kind of like we may end up finding ourselves kind of like how it is in the Asian continents, where we end up having to compete with the cost of labor over in say Asia, for example, because as we're seeing this relationship further decline between the United States and China, mainland China, we're likely to experience more and more made in America products. Now, if this happens, the only way that this is going to work is if workers here in America make wages somewhere in the ballpark of what they're making in China, which is not anything. And if this happens, we could see widespread homelessness. Now, the flip side to that is, let's just say, in order to compete and attempt to, because in order to keep prices of goods as they are and bring manufacturing here in America, we would have to have our labor force earning roughly what the labor force in China is earning in order for us to produce goods at the same price that we're currently paying. Now, we could literally see inflation, if you want to call it that. We could literally see prices just shoot through the roof if all of a sudden, our relationship with China just goes completely, if shit were literally to hit the fan and our relationship with China were to completely dwindle and we were forced to bring labor into the United States to manufacture products and services, or not products and services, just products. Just imagine if we're paying labor at our current minimum wages and higher, imagine how much more expensive prices will be in the stores. I mean, I don't think that the American people would be able to afford that. And so we would be kind of back into this domino effect of higher prices in the stores. Now workers, because they can't afford, to live, the cost of living would be so high because the cost to make the products would be so much more expensive. Now everyone needs raises. If everyone needs wages, or if everyone needs raises, that means that these businesses need to figure out how to make a profit again. Well, what are they going to do? They're going to raise their prices to offset the raises that they've given everyone. Well, if they need to raise their prices after giving raises, now the wage increases are essentially canceled out by the higher prices. So it's literally this back and forth. And if you're in the lower to middle income bracket in terms of income here in America, how do you win? And it's almost like a death spiral. And I'm really afraid in terms of how much time we have left before we actually start seeing this. So I hope that you guys are prepared.